Hello there, and welcome to Joe Awesome One channel. I'm going to read Alice in Wonderland, chosen by my nephew Thomas. Hello Thomas and Anna, and Mummy Chrissy too. I love you all. And here we go. I hope you enjoy. Please feel free to press the notification bell and subscribe. Tell your friends. Here we go. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the riverbank and having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversation in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversation? The hot day made her feel very sleepy as she sat stroking her cat Nina, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. Alice was not at all surprised to hear the rabbit say, "Oh, my fur and whiskers, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late." But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet. It flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it. And burning with curiosity, she ran after it, just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how the world she would get out again. The rabbit hole was very, very deep, but she fell very, very slowly and had plenty of time as she went down to look about her. The walls of the hole were lined with cupboards and shelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung on pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labelled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment it was empty. Down, down, down. Would the fall ever come to an end? Suddenly, thump thump, she came down upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped to her feet in a moment. Before her was a long passage. The white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. Away went Alice like the wind. She was close behind the rabbit, but when she turned a corner it was no longer to be seen. Alice was in a long hall with doors all around it, but they were all locked. Behind a curtain there was one small door, and when Alice looked through the keyhole she saw a lovely garden. The doorknob of this door startled Alice by speaking to her. "You're much too big to get through. Simply impossible." "You mean impossible?" said Alice. "No," said the doorknob. "Impossible. Nothing's impossible. Try the bottle on the table next to the little gold key." Alice took the bottle, which was labelled "Drink Me," but the wise little girl wasn't going to do that in a hurry. She looked first to make sure it wasn't marked poison, for Alice told herself, if you drink much from a bottle marked poison, it's sure to disagree with you sooner or later. This bottle had no such warning, so Alice drank it, and found herself growing smaller and smaller and smaller, until she was only 10 inches high. Just the right size for going through to the garden, but she had left the key on the table. "Try the box," said the doorknob. And Alice noticed a little box marked "Eat Me" on the floor. When she nibbled the cookies inside it, she immediately grew bigger and bigger until her head struck against the roof of the hall. "Curiosa, curiosa," cried Alice. "Goodbye, feet." When she stopped growing, she had become more than 9 feet high. She at once took up the little golden key, but now of course she was much too big for the door to the garden. Then Alice began to cry. and she cried and cried until there was a great pool of tears. She saw the little bottle bobbing on the water and quickly drank a few drops remaining in it. Immediately she shrank to a tiny size and fell into the empty bottle, riding safely within it. Alice was swept on a wave of her own tears through the keyhole. With the help of several strange creatures she encountered, Alice crawled out of the bottle and set off to explore the new land and to search for the White Rabbit. On her first adventure, she met two fat quarrelsome brothers, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, who insisted on reciting poems to her. First, they did The Walrus and the Carpenter, and Alice listened politely. When it was over, she wanted to leave, but Tweedledums and Tweedledee insisted on another recitation. Father William. While they were reciting the third verse, Alice quietly slipped away. Soon she came upon a neat little house, and the door had a bright brass plate with the name W. Rabbit engraved on it. Just then, the upstairs shutters flew open and the White Rabbit himself appeared. It called out, "Why, Marianne, what are you doing here? Run in this moment and fetch my gloves." The White Rabbit hurried out of the house and waited impatiently while Alice searched inside for the gloves. She found a cookie jar labelled "Take one," so she did. Next thing she knew, Alice was growing again. She grew so huge that her arms and legs burst through the windows and doors, and she filled the little house until finally it split apart. The White Rabbit, seeing the ruination of his home, cried out, "Help! Monster! There's a monster in my house!" Its cries brought a dodo and a lizard, both of whom tried to get Alice out of the house, but with no success. It was Alice herself who spied a carrot growing in the garden. "I wonder what will happen if I eat it," she thought, and reached a giant hand out of the window and picked it. As soon as she took a nibble, she became small again. By the time the White Rabbit had run off, muttering, I'm late, the Queen will be so angry, oh no, I can't, bye, hello, I'm late. Little Alice tried to follow the rabbit through the garden, but was too fast for her again. Noticing a cloud of smoke, Alice traced it to a large mushroom on which a caterpillar sat, contentedly blowing smoke rings. As it puffed on its hookah, "Who are you?" the caterpillar demanded. When it saw the girl, and exactly what is your problem? "Well," Alice answered, "it's exactly this. I should like to be a little larger, sir." "Why?" the caterpillar demanded, blowing a beautiful question mark out of smoke. "Well," Alice said, 3 inches is just a wretched height." The caterpillar, insulted by these words, said angrily, "I am exactly 3 inches high, and it's a very good height indeed." And before Alice could apologise, the caterpillar had disappeared in a thick cloud of its own smoke. In its place, a butterfly appeared. "By the way," the butterfly said, resuming the conversation, for indeed the caterpillar has changed into a butterfly, "I have a helpful hint for you. Eat one side of this mushroom, and it will make you grow taller, and the other side will make you grow shorter." With that, it flew away. Alice nibbled a bit from both sides of the mushroom until she had reached the normal size. "There," she sighed, "that's much better. I think I'll have these." And she pocketed 2 pieces of the magic mushroom, one from each side. And now Alice found herself in a dark forest with no idea where to go. Find the White Rabbit. The signs on the trees had only added to her confusion. Looking about, she was startled to see a Cheshire cat sitting on the bough of a tree, grinning down at her. And since it had a very long claws and a great many teeth, she felt it ought to be treated with respect. Cheshire Puss, she began timidly, would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? That depends on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't much care, said Alice. I'm looking for the White Rabbit. Well, said the cat, in that direction lives a hatter, and in that direction lives a March hare. They're both mad. Alice looked frightened. We're all mad here, the cat said. I'm mad? You're mad? Or you wouldn't have come here. The Cheshire cat began to vanish quite slowly, beginning with the end of its tail and ending with its grin, which remained some time after the rest of it had disappeared. Well, I've often seen a cat without a grin, thought Alice, but a grin without a cat? It's the most curious thing I ever saw in my life. Alice then decided to walk in the direction of the March Hare's house. A table was set under a tree. In front of the house, the March Hare and the Hatter were having a tea at it. A dormouse was fast asleep between them, and the other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head. They were having an unbirthday party. When they saw Alice coming, they cried out, "No room! No room!" "There's plenty of room," said Alice indignantly, sitting down in the armchair at one end of the table. It was the maddest tea party Alice had ever attended. With the changing seats and the changing cups every few minutes, and the Hare and the Hatter trying to stuff the poor dormouse into a teapot, and the conversation making no sense whatsoever, Alice was growing more and more bewildered. Abruptly, Hatter took his watch out of his pocket and asked, "What day of the month is it?" Alice thought a bit, and she said, "The 4th. "The day's slow," sighed the Hatter, shaking his watch and then holding it to his ear. "I told you, butter wouldn't suit the works," he added, looking angrily at the March Hare. "It was the best butter," the March Hare meekly replied. "Yes, but some crumbs must have got in as well," the Hatter grumbled. "You shouldn't have put it in with a bread knife." Turning to Alice, he asked, "Do you think some tea might help it?" "Really, now you ask me," said Alice, very much confused. "I don't think... You shouldn't talk," said the Hatter. A piece of rudeness was more than Alice could bear. She got up in great disgust and walked off. "I will find the White Rabbit," and she thought angrily, "and I will ask him how to get home. I've had quite enough of this place." Just then she noticed a little path between the tall hedges. She followed it and soon found herself in a beautiful garden among bright flower beds. A large rose tree stood at the centre of the garden. The roses growing on it were white, but 3 playing gardeners were busily painting them red. When Alice asked them why, the 3 of clubs answered, "We planted white seeds by mistake. The Queen, she likes them red. If she saw white, she'd raise a fuss, and each of us would quickly lose our head." At that moment, the 2 of clubs called out, "The Queen! The Queen!" The 3 gardeners immediately threw themselves flat on their faces. There was a sound of many footsteps as Alice looked around, eager to see the Queen. Soldiers and courtiers, among them the White Rabbit, formed a grand procession. The last of all came the King and Queen of Hearts. When they reached Alice, the Queen said severely, "Who is this?" No one answered. "Idiots!" the Queen said, tossing her head impatiently. "What's your name, child? Look up, speak nicely." Alice curtsied and replied politely, but she thought, they only are a pack of cards. After all, I don't need to be afraid of them. So when the Queen demanded to know who the 3 cards were lying on their faces, Alice surprised her at her own courage and answered, how should I know? It's no business of mine. The Queen turned crimson with fury. Off with her head! She screamed. Nonsense, said Alice very loudly and decidedly, and the Queen was silent. Can you play croquet? Shouted the Queen. Yes, shouted Alice. Come on then, roared the Queen. Alice was given a flamingo for a mallet and a hedgehog for a ball. The players all played at once without waiting for their turns, quarrelling and fighting, while the Queen went about stamping and shouting, off with his head! Off with her head! In the midst of the turmoil, the Cheshire Cat appeared, then disappeared, and appeared again somewhere else. The Queen was provoked by its pranks, and since Alice talked to the cat, and it seemed to be its friend, the Queen demanded that she be put on trial. Alice was then put in the prisoner's dock, where she became truly alarmed about what might happen to her. The White Rabbit, as late as ever, read the charges. The Queen banged her fist on the bench and shouted, sentence first, verdict afterward, off with her head! Alice, really frightened, put her hand on her apron of her pocket and felt something in there. It was the mushroom. She had popped both pieces in her mouth. One after the other she suddenly grew to her full size, and the tiny cards jabbing at her ankles were nothing to fear. Alice picked up a handful and flipped them away. Why, you're nothing but a pack of cards, she said. At this, the whole pack rose up into the air and came flying down upon Alice. Alice gave a little scream and then tried to beat them off. She found herself lying beneath a tree on the riverbank with Dina in her lap. Some leaves were fluttering down upon her face. Wake up, Alice! Wait, Alice, dear, wake up, said her sister. What a long sleep you've had. Oh, I've had such a curious dream, said Alice. A dream of Wonderland. Well now, run in for your tea, it's getting late. So Alice got up and ran off, thinking what a wonderful dream it had been. All on a happy summer's day at Christmas time. I did that. Merry Christmas everyone, and yeah, look forward to seeing what you thought. Thank you.